Hello, hello. Welcome back. Yeah, thanks for tuning in again today. Um, I think I want to keep doing these like little intros, just kind of you know keep loose, get the mood fun, fresh, break the ice, whatever you want to say, and I think just fun. um, so today I've been thinking about um, well, I woke up this morning and just had kind of this like swirl of thoughts. Um, and I think I've identified kind of the three impetuses for this kind of train of thought. Is one, I watched Blade Runner 2049 last night. Great flick. Highly recommend. If it's rated R, but yeah. But that again, Blade Runner. uh, then also I watched, so this is going to be a little bit of a bouquet of influences, but the review of the tabletop role-playing game Stonetop by Mr. Quinns, at the channel Quinn's Quest. And then thirdly, an episode from the podcast hosted by Michael Vsauce Stevens and Dr. Hannah Fry, podcast, The Rest is Science. So with those three powers combined, it has led me to think about kind of a pretty big question. And I just kind of want to like talk through the thoughts honestly for my own sake, if nothing else. And so just get ready. If you're not in it, if you're not feeling it, feel free to skip ahead. But I've been thinking about, okay, why should humans exist? Like what good does having people do? Which again, yeah. So again, that's not where you're at today. No worries. Feel free to jump ahead to when like the screen starts moving and stuff. Screen starts moving and stuff. But and I really need to like get like a little thinking scene to switch to so that it's a little bit clearer. A little bit clearer of a where the action's happening. But so yeah, the thought process there. So honestly was kicked off by actually initially Quinns in his near the end of his review of this TTRPG. I really love his work. Just the focus he puts on people and within his games, and how clearly his love for again people and community shines through his work of reviewing games. Is something like just truly special. And so at the conclusion of this review, he kind of put forward, is pretty vulnerable, and put forward some of his own ideology, which is that to him, the reason why humans are worthwhile is because we create art. For him, that was the answer. Otherwise, at least seemingly from what he said in the video, not super worth it. Which again, just like that again, that's definitely what started this train. I was like, what are my thoughts and feelings on that, right? And in the context of this project too, where I've been devoting a lot of time and thought, and I want this project to be for people and about people, and its meaning to me, there's meaning of like learning and growing, but the real thing that's like driving me is that I feel that I do believe that people have great worth. and that the communities we build are some of the best things in existence. And so as I was pondering on that, so I think where Blade Runner comes in, it just kind of got me in the mood to take in some philosophical thoughts. And then, you can take an interesting lens to that movie with that question. And honestly, I don't know. So like, but where my brain kind of went is like, I mean, gut reaction is like, I mean, I want to say it's like, again, like, I feel it is good. And then I go to like justify it, right? And, my brain is able to come up with these different thoughts of, I mean, one of the ones I just threw out was, I don't like, I feel that anything that, like, it's kind of jumping off the art question or the art answer that Quinns gave. To me, like, I feel like art belies like a deeper goodness that people have, which is that we truly have this like great desire to not only communicate and to see ourselves understood, but to like understand other people, and again, not only understand the world as it operates, but again to understand other beings, other minds, other experiences, other ways of seeing the world. That's just part of us. Again, at least from my experience, that's a significant part of me and the people that I know is, that's why we like to talk with people. That's why we like to be in community. That's why we like to help and be helped. Is again this empathy baseline, right? That's kind of the umbrella term for this. But then my thoughts went to this one episode from that podcast, the rest of science, where Michael and Hannah, they're talking about like reasoning, like where reasoning comes from, like abstract logical reasoning, and like our current scientific understanding of that. And I won't like rehash the whole thing by any means. If it does sound interesting, you can check it out. I should have looked up the title, but it is like something with like reasoning, and you're on YouTube. It's like the one where they're holding up the four big cards. It's like AG78. Anyways, yeah. But the conclusion that they kind of come to, or that they present that what our current understanding of why reasoning exists. The conclusion they present is that the evidence points to that reasoning evolved primarily as a social tool, as a way to increase our capacity to collaborate with each other, and to like trust each other. But because that was the purpose for its evolution, it's actually not the best, like purely logical abstract tool. In particular, the big flaw that they kind of present is confirmation bias. The fact that that's like is a thing that's like very ingrained in us, that confirmation bias is that when we have a belief, we are much more likely to seek, our gut is to just only tells us to seek ways to confirm that assumption and that belief. And in contrast, it's very challenging to, like, it's just not intuitive, in most situations, to seek out counterexamples, seek out things that might disprove our belief. And kind of further building off of that, they present the idea that reasoning, even though it feels to us in our perception that it is this like very rigorous building and like this pure thing, or we try to build it to be this pure thing, like that's separate from us. In the end, the basic tool, how it functions is we first have our feelings and our emotional response to something, and then the reasoning kicks in to allow us to try to support the emotional conclusion that we already reached, rather than the other way around. We don't use reasoning to reach conclusions. We reach conclusions and then use reasoning to justify the conclusion. Which again, to me, has like a pretty big edge of like nihilism to it. That idea, just being honest, like, I don't know. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, again, for me personally, like, like a lot of what I'm building my life around is like reasoning, and a lot of, again, like, not only for my personal like day-to-day life, but like what I hope to build my path to like making the world a better place is like a trust in people's ability to be rational and to again think critically and all these things. And again, just hearing that like, oh, that's all like an illusion, right? Is like, And I mean, frankly, I don't know, you could argue this as an example of the very thing itself, but like, I don't know. At least for me, I don't feel like, at least within that podcast, and I've heard that idea around in other places on the internet. At least for me, I haven't ever, I feel like sometimes it takes into the conclusion that like all reasoning is just like fundamentally irrational thing at the end of the day. Again, this is like fully emotions driven. And again, we like only trick ourselves into like thinking it's rational. And to me, that's never felt that strong of a conclusion, never felt that supported. Again, I think that it's incredibly useful for a person and for on a societal level to be aware that that is a common way in which reasoning works, right? And to try to, again, and being aware of it, to try to then catch it within yourself, catch it within our systems, and try to counteract it, right? And avoid the biases that it introduces. But when it comes to, but again, I feel like I just have a hard time believing that with where we're at in both our technology, but really a much stronger piece of evidence for me that not all reasoning is like that is in the social sciences for me. Again, the fact that we've been able to construct value systems and tools, again, scientific tools, to actually meaningfully, replicably, scientifically empathize with people and understand how people's minds work, and to try to create more just societies, right? The basic principles that have led us from, again, fully allowing ourselves to believe and dehumanize people. For America, like slavery is just a full dehumanization of someone else, and walk it back a little bit, right? Again, dehumanization of people of color is still very much present, but the fact that we have been able to make consistent forward gradual progress over generations, to me indicates that in some way our tools of reasoning are, at least for me, potent enough when used carefully to basically to the point where it doesn't in practice matter if it is this like actually pure abstract beautiful tool, or if it just appears that way. To me, like, that indicates that in practice it's good enough to help us make the progress we need. And kind of by extension of that, like, again, reflecting all the way back to the original question that I've kind of been, started out this train of thought on, like, why do I feel that people are worth it? Basically just in evaluating my answer that it's empathy. It's our ability to try to understand another person and love another person. And also want to make very clear that I don't believe that that's a unique thing to people. I think a lot of other animals very much have a capacity for empathy and love. Like, maybe you can make an argument it's like a difference of degree rather than kind, but even that, again, I feel like that point gets a little subjective. But for people, at least in particular, I feel like that's a good enough answer for me. Is that I believe people are worth it because people believe other people are worth it. And I don't know. I hope that was an interesting little philosophical start to day. Yeah, I don't know. And again, I feel it is pretty pertinent to this project. So it's kind of the foundation we're operating off of here. And so it's sometimes good to check the perimeter, make sure everything's tight, no cracks in the foundation, letting water get in the basement, whatever the analogy is that we're using. But yeah, well, here I'll start jiggling the screen to let people know we're through the existential part. Okay, but yeah, with that, let's get back into the meat of the project. So some quick updates as well. I have not heard back from the sociologists yet. But I did hear back from one of the economists. I've heard back from a couple, but I'm a little bit of a game of not telephone, but they kind of, different economists kind of directed me towards other ones who passed me along. Maybe a hot potato, yeah, kind of a thing. But there's an economist who very kindly has taken interest in the question we're working on, which, again, I'll reiterate for now. I kind of need to take a sec to okay, how much do I want to repeat things that have already happened? There's a balance there for sure. But we're working right now on the how worthwhile is it to have bilingualism in civil service jobs in the U.S. And so he took an interest in that question. And so right now we're just trying to schedule time when I could meet next week to talk with him through some of the approaches we're taking, and, get an expert, someone who has a lot more experience than me, see what his thoughts are, what tools, he's aware of that I'm not, so I'm really grateful for him for being willing to do that. So again, I'll keep you posted on what he says after we've had that conversation. But for now, we'll keep on plugging with, the tools that, the resources that we currently have access to. So again, just a quick refresher. I won't go through the whole history of the project. Which is last time. We were looking at how to construct a design, or how to design a survey. How to design a survey well. With kind of the big consideration, the big hurdle kind of looming in the distance, being that as an independent researcher, I feel like it's inevitable that we're going to encounter selection bias in any survey that we distribute, which is that people won't respond because they don't have any reason to, or not any reason to. That's actually a thought I'll touch on it in a sec. But I don't have like authority to ensure that everyone will respond to the survey. That's for sure. And so we were reading through this paper. Again, I'll show it. Yeah. By, I apologize. I don't know. I'll do my best American, but Yelka Bethlehem. On particularly, this is for web surveys, but they do talk about self-selection bias and how to address it. So reading the paper, we got some pretty useful ideas on how, again, the literature and how kind of the current knowledge is aware of how to counteract that that bias. And so, again, I won't rehash every single thought, but this is a current kind of design document for the survey, the different considerations, the different things that we're planning on, really key parts of how we're designing the survey. But kind of the main tool, or kind of one of the tools that we left off on, is that we're going to have to use, it looks like we're going to have to use something called a reference survey in order to counteract the selection bias or self-selection bias within our full actual survey. Or again, just quick summary. Reference survey is this idea. So the basic idea is that we need to get these auxiliary variables, which again is like benchmarks we can compare our sample against. So it's like questions we include in our survey that we already know the answer to, or we know how people respond to those questions usually. And so then when we get our answers back from these survey respondents, we can compare that, those auxiliary variable questions. We can compare that to okay, here's how they should be responding. How do they actually respond for us? If there's any kind of bias there, then we can account for that. So that the questions that we don't already know how people usually respond to, the point of doing the survey, we can account for any potential bias within those. That's the basic idea. And this reference survey is kind of like a sub-tool of that basic idea, which is that sometimes you don't have a known way that people respond to questions. Or for our case, what is kind of the whole thing is, with how we're designing our survey, we'd have to find we're saying we have to find 122 good, reliable sources of data for very different places and people and categories, and in order to have this benchmark. And to me, that just seems pretty infeasible. And so we are going to be trying to use this reference survey technique where basically you create your own benchmark before you do the larger survey. But unfortunately, the big question we kind of still come back to is, okay, we don't, for the larger survey, we don't have to guarantee everyone responds. If we have the smaller survey where we do guarantee everyone responds, and so it's it is better. It is a better question, or a smaller problem than the original one we started with, but it is still kind of the same problem, but just much smaller in scope. So that's what we'll be working on today is figuring out how to, again, the highlighted text and the title of the stream. But again, how do we guarantee even a smaller portion of people for sure respond? So last time, again, this is right at the end, and so we just kind of started pulling up some papers, but we hadn't had not. Anyways, we had not looked into any of the papers yet, and so that's what we'll do today. So let's see here. Just trying to refresh myself. Yeah, so we had this one. Okay, and then we were pulling up a couple from just my university's search engine. So let's see here. Again, our goal right now is just pull up a bunch, kind of scattershot, read through the abstracts, and see if let's see if this is available in full. But read through the abstracts, and then just see if it looks like it's going to be talking about things that will be useful to us. And then any ones that do, we'll read a little bit further. But okay, so this has an abstract. And then we'll also crack open this one. Is this the same? Weird. I will have to see what the heck just happened because I think I just walked in a little loop. Okay, yeah, that was just the same thing. Okay, I don't know how that happened, but okay. Sorry, maybe we should have done this ahead of time, but let's see. Okay. I am a human being. Okay. And then again, this one is like, we'll see if this thing is kind of a long shot one, but all right. Let's skim through. Let's get to the skimming. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. So, provides an overview of experimental study, implementing the German subsample. Okay. We conclude that in our setting, prepaid incentives are effective. Okay, that's not feasible for us. I don't know. I'm pretty, I'm a math tutor right now, fresh college grad. So I don't think paying government agencies would be in the budget. So higher incentives lead to higher responses. Okay. Prepaid incentives also lead to higher initial refusals even before the interviewer tried to contact the household. Again, if we're curious, we can see what that means. But in terms of cost effectiveness, no final conclusion can be drawn. Paying the incentive is, of course, more expensive, but the increase in response, okay, I just kind of, yeah. But the increases in the response rate and the implied reduction in the initially necessary growth sample may outweigh, yeah. It's just like apples to oranges, like how much are you willing to get the data? Beyond mere monetary conclusions, incentive groups did not prove to be biased, okay, whereas they're significantly closer to the sampling frame, the age distribution, okay. Furthermore, using a doorstep questionnaire, we show that there's no non-response bias, cures of interest due to complications during the field work. One initially planned experiment on refusal avoidance training could not be conducted. Not target those responses. Conclusion that their behavior is not much influence. Okay. So again, this seems incentives is like specifically monetary incentives that they're talking about in this paper, which I don't know. Maybe we won't close it out yet because maybe it's like analogous to like non-monetary incentives. Or I guess, okay, I said I was going to touch on this, and so might as well right now. But so while I was down at my folks, watching Blade Runner, I talked just through some of these things with my dad, and he just threw out the idea that so he spent his career in like corporate finance. And so from his world, his experience with like, kind of be on the receiving end of surveys by researchers, a good incentive for at least, these corporations was if the researchers, committed to share the results of the research they were doing back with the corporation at the end of it, right? Because again, for the corporations, they wanted to, if they wanted to know how they could be more efficient with their resources. And I think that would apply to government agencies. Again, like maybe a little bit less purely in terms of efficiency, because government agencies, hopefully primarily, or ideally, primarily are responsible to like the public rather than to turning a profit. But again, like I think that people still care about having the highest quality service that they can. And so here, maybe I'll just make a note of that. Their design is, let's see, maybe we'll put it here, but just like commit to sharing research results as incentive, as like response incentive. Again, like that is an incentive that I can provide for free, right? But that does seem like meaningful to an organization, right? It's actually something worthwhile. So I'm really grateful for that suggestion from my dad. Again, I've been trying to think if there's anything else, since he mentioned that idea. I haven't been able to think of other incentives I could provide. But again, if you have any thoughts, like I'm watching this right now, or I'm gonna VOD later, with everything we're talking about, I would love to hear your thoughts. Because again, as the captcha confirmed, I am human. And, I have blind spots and might be missing things, or again, I just would love to hear input. So, okay, but yeah, so let's get back to seeing which of these papers might be useful to us. Okay, so comparing data from online and face-to-face surveys. So this paper explores some of the issues surrounding the use of, sorry, I'll zoom in again. Surrounding the use of internet-based methodologies. Probably, maybe a little similar to that web survey paper by Bethlehem, but the use of internet-based surveys methodology, in particular extent to which data from online survey can be matched to data from a face-to-face survey. So hypotheses about what causes differences in data from online panel surveys and nationally represented face-to-face surveys are discussed. These include interviewer effect and social desirability bias in face-to-face methodologies. So interviewer effect, social desirability. Okay. Yeah, let's see here. Online panel, face-to-face. Data were compared before weighting. Okay, this CAPI, let's see. I remember there was some techniques that Bethlehem mentioned. Okay, yeah, maybe let's also take a second look into that today. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, yeah. So again, like maybe this will be pertinent to us. Because so I guess honest, like my current thought for like how to distribute the survey was like, I guess, by email. But that seems like much less likely to, or, email is pretty easy to ignore. um, you know, it's just, common experience. um, um, and like snail mail, right? Like physical mail. Um, I mean, that might actually get expensive with even, sending out that many letters. That might be a good little chunk of change. Or no, I don't know, like 122, getting like a rough estimates. No, not 122. I have to send it to each place. Yeah, so that's like 1,000 or 10,000. Yeah, that's again, that's not really viable. But also, unfortunately, so what I was thinking is like, oh, well, maybe I could try this like face-to-face, even like online face-to-face hybrid, which again, we'll look into it, but I'm pretty sure that's what this CAPI, computer-assisted personal interviewing, like I imagine what it is. It's like you send a link. It's like over Zoom or something, right? You like take a face call, whatever, a video call with someone. And so you have some of the benefits of like, again, a face-to-face interview, but without having to travel to each person that you're interviewing. But again, now in terms of time, if we want to do the full scope that we currently have in our sites, that's not feasible. Okay. So I'll put a pin in this thought I'm having right now, and we'll circle back if none of these other papers address it. But yeah, so let's finish reading these out. Let's see here. Context. Okay, so this is like more astronomy, but let's see if this has it all. General techniques? I don't think so, because stars don't self-select. Let's see. And this reference survey. Let's see, I'll just Command F reference, and again, I doubt that this is actually be pertinent to us. Let's see. Wow, this is dense. Formatting. Spaceship resolved. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's not going to be pertinent because, anyways, I'm being silly. Because again, this is also, yeah, I mean, again, this is like, we need like social science papers, because our issues with, the issue, like what we need to, consider and account for with our design is the human element of it, right? That people make choices, and that's where we're trying to, again, create the best survey around. So okay, I guess those weren't let's see, those weren't particularly useful things to go off of. So okay, unpinning the thought. So, okay, the thought, the base thought, I'll just say, is do we need to change our scope, right? So, I mean, just kind of the natural trade-off of changing your scope is that, you can ensure you're getting higher quality data for that small. I mean, that's the idea of the reference survey as a baseline. And then, maybe we just need to like extend that further. But, you can devote more resources to get higher quality data, if you limit, the pool you're pulling from. Because again, what we kind of keep running into is like, as soon as we try to apply any of, like a lot of different methodologies to our sample, our scope, it immediately blows up and it's unfeasible for a single person to do. Like, again, anything beyond like more that like I can't fully automate, that like I have to be present for, basically, is infeasible at this scope, at this scale. Because again, this means like, I'll just put it like, I'll just, again, super broad, rough estimates, but like 1,000 to 10,000 samples, right? Or data points, right? Like that's the scope of like the actual, like, again, things we would be doing. Like, bespoke, that's like our N, basically, that's our sample size. And again, that's like immediately, even again, that's like a super lower conservative, super conservative lower bound. Even that's not feasible. Again, or like, again, like I could, but I think it would be more. It would not be worth that much time. I think other people in different circumstances, like larger groups of people, it'd be more effective for them to tackle that large of a scope, like on a personal basis. And so again, but because the trade-off is that I can't possibly be personally involved with that large of a sample size, it has to be like this impersonal approach, which again, just like, I know from my experience with job applications, and just, I think it's a common experience, just in how the world's set up, that's like much easier to ignore, and or just like also not see, to miss, right? So we kind of have two options. And these aren't like mutually exclusive options by any means, but they will be kind of two separate projects, basically. So one is that we can continue with our current scope and just know that we're going to get pretty broad, strokey data, right? Like, that, again, it's honestly going to be like a pretty sparse data set that we probably actually get back, right? You're not very like high quality. So again, it might be able to give us like some ideas about, again, the general trends and like on these like this like large scale, but like we won't be able to get like this very high quality data from that. Again, with this approach and everything, like, and it's like the best approach that I have been able to find. Again, maybe when I talk with experts, they'll propose other ways, but again, I can't conceive right now of alternate ways to access that data if it's not already there, like to create that data. So, okay, yeah, so keep our scope, but just know that our data is going to be somewhat sparse, not the highest quality. Or again, we like significantly limit our scope and maybe are able to actually get some high quality results from that. And it's like the level I'm thinking of is like, so like I'm living in Utah right now. And so like maybe just limit to the state of Utah. And again, then we could do like state level organizations and municipal level organizations within Utah. Which again will already be like a pretty big, pretty big thing, because again, the reason why we'd be limited our scope is to allow for the possibility of those, like again, me being involved with actually like face to face getting each data point. But that's a lot more doable than every state and province in Canada and US. So, okay. And again, at this point, it just feels like a judgment call, right? Like it's just kind of what I'm valuing. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, live or in the VOD. Again, this isn't like if we choose one, we can never go back and choose the other kind of a thing, or we can't. We can do both. Just like to which to prioritize first, at least. Again, I think like my heart and my like maybe even a little bit of my hubris wants to just like stick with a big scope. Like some of the more, again, see the beginning of the video for all of the footnotes on this, but like some of the reasons for that. I feel like working at scale could give me good practice, right? And like that's like sometimes you have to just make that call, just get sparser data, then we can learn how to work with sparser data, which again is a good skill to have and to learn. But the other side of it, for the argument for limiting the scope, it's like maybe I can treat that almost as like a little bit more of a test run kind of a thing for these questions and for these ideas, right? Again, make sure they're working well and kind of giving us data that we want on a smaller scale. And then when we would ramp up to large scale, then we'd have, maybe our design, our survey might be better designed through some of the feedback we'd get from smaller design. But the same could also be said for the other way, right? Like, whichever one we do first, we're going to learn a lot from doing that one. And it could help us design the second one better. Because again, honestly, like if we are just gonna have to just do the email approach for the larger scope, no matter what, like I think with that choice, that will be the faster survey than smaller scope, but like in person. And so with that in mind, with what we just talked about in mind, that the first one, I don't want to say it will be a full trial run because we want to make it as good as we can beforehand, but there's a good chance that we'll, it wouldn't be as good as if we did a second, and the second one would be better, all that stuff, right? With that in mind, then it might be for, again, me and my resources, which right now is mostly time. That's like my main limited resource. Well, again, money, whatever. Like I don't think like that I can actually expend. So just with that in mind, like maybe we should do the faster one first, which again would be the larger scope still. Again, all of the caveats from the first 15 minutes of stream in mind, not aside, but in mind. I think I still will do that route, just again based on that like almost like efficiency argument. Just that it'll be faster, and then it will help us learn so we can do the slower one better. Okay, cool. Got that ironed out. Okay. So, again, maybe I'll get a note to myself somewhere. Here, maybe like here. We'll do like all this action, which says, let's see here, like maybe focus on just Utah next, like after larger survey, in order to make use of face-to-face survey techniques. So yeah, again, we'll just kind of put that for ourselves to remember, we don't have to have that, that same, thought process again later. Okay, but yeah, so we'll be doing a current survey. And so again, hello. That is good that I feel like it's good that we went through that. Again, we made that choice to kind of keep with our current scope, but we are still back now to this question. Because again, just to like reiterate, again, just like maybe a small point I made yesterday, but again, like the issue is that, which maybe it's obvious, but the issue is that for this reference survey, it still has to be a fully random sample. That somehow we make that random sample behave basically non-randomly in that one sense, we like almost conditionalize it or something, but no, not conditionalize it, whatever. But we ensure that maybe it's conditional. Anyway, we ensure that sample, that is condition. Sorry, my brain. Sorry, that is mathematical conditioning. I'm like pretty sure. It is like you guarantee your sample has some property, but you have to do that in a way that you make sure you don't introduce bias. That was like a research project I did in my undergraduate in like a very abstract way, but anyways. We have to somehow guarantee this random sample has this deterministic property, which is that they respond. Because if we instead just, send it out and then only, again, just the word naive approach is like used, and it's not meant to be judgmental, but it's meant to just be like your first instinct approach, or like kind of the simplest approach kind of a thing. So I don't know. I'll try not to use that word though, because it does feel like, all right, like, I don't know, like you're just thinking through stuff. I don't know. But again, the most straightforward approach would be, it's like, oh, well, I'll just send out the survey and then just the ones that respond, I'll make that my reference survey. But again, the whole point is that you're trying to get a sample that does not have selection bias or self-selection bias within it. And you are hard coding in, if you only take the ones that responded, that you've hard coded in the bias that they might have into your reference. Okay. Let's see. I mean, you can't you can't even, maybe the next thought is you also can't choose who you're going to ask such that the ones that you ask are more likely to respond. Because again, you might be introducing bias. So again, I'm just trying to think then, like, what levers we would have. Because the intent behind the reference survey is that, like, somehow you're able to devote more resources to the sample. Um, hmm. So again, I'm just thinking, what resources do I have that I'm not already using, would not already be using in the larger sample, right? In the larger survey we'd be performing. So again, like this one incentive, I'll just bold that to make it easier to find. But this one incentive is feasible to do on a larger scale. So there's no reason why we shouldn't do that for a larger scale, as well as, excuse me, obviously as well as a small scale. But there wouldn't be no difference between the two samples. We basically need to come up with some difference between the two surveys, like the design of the two surveys, such that the smaller one, it will probably inevitably, it will have to cost more resources in order for us to, like, otherwise we just do it for a larger survey too. But, some way to expend more resources, but such that we get a higher quality, much lower non-response rate in return. So, one thought is, again, maybe taking a hybrid approach for this larger survey of, or, for the reference survey, maybe I do use, kind of flip the switch of doing face-to-face techniques, again, devoting that time, because that is a meaningful, again, we can check those papers, but just from the abstracts, that's like a meaningful, a really significant way to increase response results, which again just tracks from personal experience. But we have to think about, so I'll finish this thought and then move on to the next one. But we have to think about what our sample size is, right? What sample size do we want, and actually do we need for these surveys? Which leads me to the next thought, which is maybe we should take a beat, or it might end up being a couple beats, but to kind of flip this around for a sec in terms of like right now we're trying to take a very like pragmatic grounds up approach. Maybe we take a beat to kind of flip it and take a more abstract look at what we're trying to do, and use basically statistical tools to compute, okay, what are the sample sizes we need in order to help us inform, again, our more qualitative decisions we're trying to make right now. Again, get some quantitative rails in place of like, okay, like this is what we're actually talking about for like the scale, the scope of things. Because again, right now I just can't, like baseline is like, oh, if I did like one person face-to-face interaction for each of these organizations, each of these strata we were talking about yesterday, like that's doable, I guess. It might take a sec, but obviously you need a much larger sample size than one, even for the reference survey. And like there's a spectrum between email and a Zoom call, I guess, but like, like where, again, what is the scope of the time I'm thinking of committing, or I would have to commit with these different approaches. And for that, like I just don't have any kind of, I don't think it's possible to just have like some intuitive knowledge of, I need this many sample sizes to get this quality of results. So maybe let's pivot into that. So let's see here. All right. This is a little nerve-wracking almost because again, like I got my degree in math, I work as a math tutor. It's like everything up to this point has been like, oh, I'm just learning, it's fine. And now I feel like there's some more pressure on me because like I should know some of this already. But I'm trying to like, you're okay. Like it is okay to still be learning in something you have spent more time learning. And to refresh and things. Just I just got caught off guard a little bit by that spike in anxiety. But okay. So let's see here. So the two things, again, the abstract knowledge I know is that, so the two things, so again, we kind of need to start constructing in a more mathematical way. Okay, what are we actually saying? What is our hypothesis, right? So here, I'll maybe do like a page break. So the stats zone TM. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So so we're trying to like, okay, what is the actual like mathematical thing we're gonna be doing? And actually, I think we just need to decide. I'm trying to think. I'm like, oh, I don't think I've actually decided or chosen yet, like what we want to do with the data at the end of the day, which is important. Sometimes it's nice if you can just get the data and then you can decide later. But I think generally this is much more how it goes, especially if you get to the grants and stuff. You have to like, okay, I've actually plotted out the full project. I can't just go blindly swing into the bushes of the world to get my data. So, okay. Again, I think so we just need to kind of choose. So one thought is we can do, again, we just need to kind of quantify so let's see. So we're trying to, we're gonna have to take some sort of hypothesis test. And so I'm just kind of maybe speaking more aloud what I'm thinking. Hypothesis testing, again, it's kind of like the tool you have. It's in the name, for like, that is like science is you're testing hypothesis, but in stats is like, there's like a specific thing that means. But that, again, it is the tool. And so we have to just construct the hypothesis that we are testing. And it's slightly, like actually start formalizing and operationalizing some of what we've been kind of talking about, which, again, like part of me wants to kind of kick it down the road a little bit further to know exactly what we should be caring about. But again, for this step, I think we have enough. So again, I'll just speak out loud the thoughts, and then for your sake and for mine as well, so I can just kind of work through them. So first thought is hypothesis testing that proportion potential hypotheses. One of them is that, again, I'll kind of write this out in formal language. We can come up with symbols and stuff later, but that proportion of, again, I'll just, for the sake, it would be French for Canada for you, but Spanish speakers in region is equal to proportion of Spanish speakers at organization, serving said region is one way to put it, I guess. But again, that's like not, again, that's just the first time. That's like not, I don't think, that's not really what we care about, right? Like, you don't need, and this is again where maybe we need to spend a little bit more time actually like dive into the resources, the literature. But like, you don't need like a 1-to-1 ratio between Spanish speakers in your population and Spanish speakers in these organizations, right? Like I don't see, I don't have any justification for why that's the goal, why that's the target we're shooting for. Because again, like I could very easily see like you don't actually need, again, you can have like likely would it be a smaller proportion of speakers at the organizations can still fully and meaningfully serve a larger proportion within the community. Maybe, right? But maybe you do need it to match, or like you need it more than the other community, than the portion of the community. Like again, like I don't think that we have enough. I'll make a note like would need to check what the literature says about the optimal ratio, basically. And maybe that's how we operationalize it then, is instead of like equaling proportion, which again, that's probably not it. And then, otherwise we'd have to say, oh, it's like, maybe like less than / equal to / greater than, right? Like, like it'd be one of those, but if it's not exactly equal to, or, the ideal is not they should be roughly equal, then we just are left with these like pretty broad statements we're trying to make of just like, it's just greater than, or it's just less than. Whereas, again, a more precise, but like how much greater, how much less than, right? Again, that's both, I think, a less meaningful, the results we get from it, it lines up, like the question itself is less meaningful, right? Because it's like, okay, it's just greater than, cool, I guess, right? Like, and to like disprove that is gonna be harder because, like, sure, it might be greater than it, but like it might be like actually way off from the ideal. How much greater than, or it might be, how much less than, right? It might actually be like off from the ideal, but we can only say, but it is greater than it, right? Which again isn't useful. So that's all to say. I think maybe the better way to operationalize it is like proportion of a ratio. Again, change again. It's still going to make some sort of percentage, but like the ratio of span speak, whatever, in region versus span speakers at org for region is equal to the like ideal ratio, which that to me seems like a better question. And then for us, then it would be like, okay, we do need to like need to go through literature to find ideal. That feels a lot better. And again, that's like, okay, yeah, I think that's what we'll go for. So I'll even do a fun little strike through, just, just to document it, but, But yeah, because this is much nicer as well, because like, I don't know, like you can for sure do it, like comparing two different, two different proportions you're getting fully from just samples, right? That's like, it's for sure, comparative tests. And usually how it works is like you end up like subtracting the proportions from each other and you compare it. Is it greater than or equal to 0 kind of thing, like all that stuff. That's like usually I actually do the statistics with it. So that's like a comparative hypothesis test. But, it's like a little bit, just like a tad bit. Basically, it's like a slightly nicer thing you can do. If you can find some way where now it's just the sample versus like a known abstract quantity, that's a little bit nicer to test. And it's like a little bit cleaner as well. It is a little bit, doesn't matter that much. But anyways, but yeah, so I think, I'm just trying to think, okay, just take a beat while we're in the zone. And the stats zone TM, and think if there's other potential hypotheses. Because again, like maybe, I don't know, like maybe this, like this ideal ratio isn't like a thing that's already known or studied. But again, like I'm just trying to make the call right now of like if it is the thing that has been studied, I think that's the question we want to ask. I think that second hypothesis is exactly what, would it give us 100% like what we're looking for. And so maybe we should just look and see if there is literature on what this ideal ratio is, then we're done, right? We don't have to keep thinking up new hypotheses. But if not, then we can come back. I think that's what we'll do. Okay, so okay, we're kind of far enough away from where we started. I think I'm going to change the stream title. Just doesn't matter much, but let's see, what should we change it to? We'll see how much. I don't know. I'm having fun using this bit of using a heck in the title. I don't know. I think I find it charming. I'm delighting myself, and if you're not delighting yourself, how can you expect to delight anyone else? It's beautiful. Let's see. Let's change it. So, what the heck is? I'll do the slashes. Show them hip and Dina. What the heck is the ideal ratio for, I'm trying to think of how to make this at all like, oh, I would want to watch that, but ideal ratio for speakers, I don't know, man. Whatever. This is not interesting. All the speakers. Ideal ratio for public versus civil service. I'll make this a little less precise. It's a little bit more clickbaity, I guess. I don't know. For public versus government language prevalence. That's fine. Okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if we can find that. And again, like, I don't know. I think I want, because I have more time today, I'll do university, but I think I'm also going to, like, basically with where we left off last time, it was just like super last minute, like 5 minutes to just pull up some stuff. But again, we can actually go through and try to find some like actually higher quality resources for this question. So let's see. So, okay. Come on. That one class where the librarian came in and told us how to use the engine well, it's come back to me. let's see here. So, and we don't have to get it right on the first try. Just come up with something, we can refine it. I don't know, again, I'll just try like, I'll just, again, very blunt, and just we'll refine it. Ideal ratio, language speakers versus, maybe I'll just like employee, just, you know. Okay. Also, maybe I'll check if it's because I'm not logged in or something, but nope. Okay, this is a bad question. How many is ideal ratio language? Let's just see what the heck that comes up with. Language education, yeah. Ideal mask-based speech enhancement algorithms. No. Yeah, these are like interesting. Consistently bringing up these like noise reduction things. Which actually shout out. I apologize if the audio for these streams has been truly terrible. As I've been, so again, I'm saying I'm trying to put together a VOD channel, and kind of the big hurdle right now is just the reason why, again, I could just post the VOD, obviously, but like, I want the audio to be nice. And I'm realizing just how terrible the audio is right now. So that is something I want to work towards, just haven't had time to fully get that figured out. So thank you so much if you're bearing with me in these trying early times right now. And again, for I promise I'll do better. I'll be better. That's just funny. Anyways, and shout out like Modern Filmmaker. I think that's their YouTube channel. I'm using his video tutorials on DaVinci. Just giving them a shout out. Anyways, let's see here. So relationship, no. Efficient enhancement approach, no. Work ratio. A return to work for workers, no. Ooh, that's intriguing. We'll just I'll read that on my own time for setting exercise goals. But on the optimality of ideal binary time, radiation force. I don't think we're getting what we want. Okay. Well, maybe let's take it to, again, like, I'm not fully giving up, but just, I'm not readily getting what I want, so let's go over to Google Scholar and see if they have anything. That's funny. I have, if I had like, what I say is, so if I had, this is a life I have to live, and so I'm using it how I'm using it right now, which is like math and using it to, solve social issues. If I had a second chance at life, like able to live this full life, then have a second go, I would want to be like a street musician, like a busker. I mean, not full busker, but like a musician, like a local scene, like just going around playing gigs. Third chance at life after those two full ones, I'd want to do an anthropological research on memes. So that's why that's there. I was just talking to my coworkers, but maybe it's a little too vulnerable. It's a very deep insight into who I am, but there it is. Okay. What the heck? Okay, sorry. Let's see here. Ideal ratio. I don't know, man. Like, that might not be the best. Let's see here. Like language needs again, that's like has the implication of like use like children with developmental needs, but maybe that will get us what we want. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. Again, this isn't super interesting, but I think it's important to make sure we're getting the right, we're not just wasting our time just shooting off random things. Let's see. Because, okay, if we just find something that's like talking generally about, again, the good and the bad, that having someone who can speak your language at a job, which, okay, maybe those are like actually some of the papers I started out reading were about just the good and the bad, right? And then maybe they can point us to we can use like their introductions, their abstracts, and again, the thought, I guess. That's the one we're looking at. The thought would be we could. Okay, I've got all the heck of them open. That's gonna be annoying. I don't know why. Anyways, whatever. We'll see it one at a time. The thought, and some like actual skill or skill, like a trick or something that I've genuinely found to be just baseline useful, is for trying to find good papers. Just finding papers that like are generally talking like in the same ballpark as what you're interested in, and then in their introductions of those papers, they reference previous papers that have like established certain ideas. The one flaw or blind spot to that is that because of referencing previous papers, sometimes you kind of each time you click back through, kind of follow the link of referenced papers, it does take you farther back in time, again, kind of inevitably. And so that means that like sometimes you don't get like the most current research, but again, it's a nice way to like get some of the foundational texts and ideas in place at least. So that's all to say. And for us, like again, none of this is like super cutting edge that we're interested in. So hopefully, again, data from a little bit ago it'll still be at least mostly reliable or mostly pertinent. Okay, zoom in. That's right. Okay, so this is Snap. Oh man, this is annoying. Can I make it not? I wish it just would scroll, but that's bothering me. Okay. Blah. Okay. I don't know why it's bothering me. It's like nails on chalkboard. Okay. I'll just do arrow keys. That's weird. I'm having a bad response to it. Okay. Okay. So this might be more about socioeconomic challenges, but or of regional access rather than like language access, because it was urban, rural, and definitely there are language differences, but that might not be the focus. I'll just like language. So include lack of awareness. Okay, so maybe one of these. Oh my gosh, one of these. Geez, okay, whatever. I'll just have to live with that right now. Maybe look into it later. But one of these references. Let's see if language next shows up. But I mean, they kind of reiterate it later. So okay, let's see. So that paper 3 is repeated. Let's see what that is. Facilitators and barriers, supplemental nutrition assistance programs, and use findings from clinic for low-income patients. Maybe. I don't know. We'll crack that one open too. Just throw it in, but again, we'll just see if there's other ones on this. Let's see. Let's see. I think it's kind of got itself confused about where it's at. Oh, I mean, actually, hang on. Let me just see if language is in the paper titles. Maybe that okay. Ensuring language access for limited English proficient individuals and effective communications. Consideration of the recent unwinding. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good. And it's from the USDA. Like, it's a source. Okay, yeah, let's finish going through and see if we can find other ones. But again, it's just kind of the problems that they're listing it with like other issues. So, but let's see, 1931. 1931. So perceptions and barriers to snapulation among Asian Pacific Islanders. Maybe. Urban food policy declines, yet hunger persists. Caseloads and the need to ease access to benefits. Barriers to participation in food among. Okay, I don't know. We'll just. They seem like similar, so we'll try one of them. I don't know, I'll follow these leads for a second. Okay, so facilitators and barriers to supplemental nutrition assistance program incentive use. Find some clinic intervention for low-income patients. So, okay. Healthy food incentives. Low income, yet many eligible do not use them. Limited awareness. Acceptability, impact of primary case-based informational intervention. So these might be more on, again, like how to tell people about the program, but not necessarily, again, looking at, language as a part of that interface. Can I access the full? Oh, okay. I might need to just throw it into my university search engine. Again, I'll just mention this again briefly. I've talked about it before, but I recognize that it is a privilege to still have access to university, and the access it gives me to papers, because that is just, I don't know. Like, I get you need to make a living, I guess, but I don't know. I personally haven't looked into. I just will frankly speak. I can't. I don't know. I haven't looked into the full world and ramifications of why this is how the academic world is set up with access to papers and literature. So I'll just admit that's a blind spot. So, like, gut, I feel like it sucks, and it's not necessary, but like, I don't know for sure. So, anyways, I will be using the privilege that I have in order to access these papers for this project. But okay, full text available. Okay. Can I get the PDF? Is that allowed? Oh, there it is. Yep. I'll just, save these for later, but we'll just focus now on just reading them. Let's see. Oh gosh, why is that how this is? Oh my gosh. Here, let's see if I can enable scrolling, please, and thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Jeez. I don't know why that was off. Okay. Okay. Multiple cannot be reached. Yeah, I think these ones are more about like information as a barrier, not language. So let's see what the other ones have to offer. Okay. Limited English proficiency. This is the USDA. I mean, this is also meaningful. This is like a current actual policy in place, which is good to be aware of if we're trying to ultimately change policy. So I just discriminate on the basis, so like Title 6. Again, there's good, I don't know, both good on a lot of levels. This is a law in the United States, and I imagine it's a common law, whatever. It's good that we have the fact that, okay, this is nominally in our law and our legislation, something we're trying to work towards. Well, this question we're trying to answer, it's not, we at least have already legal foundation for it, which is nice because there are some changes that need to occur in the world where there is not currently legislation in place that says that we should at least be working towards that, and that's a much larger barrier to clear. Anyways, let's see. So meaningful access, the school program. Here, what was this paper referencing again? Barriers to participation in the food stamp program among. It's a little old, but let's see here. Here, let's look that up again, or we'll do the DOI. Okay, let's see. But not receive them. Background characteristics. And let's provide below 59% were Hispanic. Only 15% of the food pantry clients receive food stamps with homelessness and limited English language skills acting as barriers. Okay, yeah, so this might be food insecure, food pantries. Majority food pantry, low income substantial do not receive them. I mean, again, this is like exactly the kind of thing we're wanting to address. Again, the fact that people can't access SNAP, like food, they have food insecure, I'll just wear the whole soapbox. I mean, a lot of this is, I'm like kind of just sitting on a soapbox as we do the research, but like, I guess, I don't know. But like, again, this is like exactly what we're trying to address with our research is, again, the fact that people, this like matters basically, right? That's why I'm taking this beat, right? Like, people can't eat partially because there aren't people who speak their language working at these organizations. Again, like, it doesn't mean that my solution or, again, anything, right? That's the solution to this problem, but that is part of why this matters, to at least look at and try to figure out what the solutions might be. Let's see here. Experience food insecurity. yeah, it's like a very significant proportion of the people experiencing food insecurity. Again, it's the fancy academic way to say they couldn't eat, weren't actually accessing this program. More recent, half. Again, this is, I mean, yeah, it's kind of old data, but it's a place to start at least. But let's see here. Okay. Do we have PDF? Oh, this is pretty brief, actually. Yeah, unfortunately, they don't go. So, your individuals are considered well-being. Majority food pantry do not receive. Barriers include lack of knowledge about nationality, changing ability, and stigma associated with participation are also barriers. Again, what we're looking for is like, we're hoping that in the introduction they're going to reference, like, here's a study on like, ideally, like, again, the amount, again, this thing we're trying to answer, like, what's the ratio that we want between, again, the language prevalence among people being served versus language prevalence among organization doing the serving. Again, like, I don't know. That's also, again, this is the kind of question where, like, I don't have like guarantee that someone's like answered this already. But it also seems like the one where someone could have answered it already. So like, that's just kind of in that limbo zone of like, again, it's not like, why the heck can't we find something immediately? Like, it makes sense that like this isn't like the most researchable thing, but like, that's also why we're still trying, because like, I could see it having been done. It seems like a tricky question to answer, which again is why it'd be really nice if someone has already done the work to answer it. But let's see. So the number of people living in poverty, the following hypothesis: single parent families more likely, English language ability encourage, and homelessness would be less likely. Results: total 25%. Let's see here. So this is ethnicity. About English language. Let's see here. So, okay, yeah. So, p-value of less than, a 5% significance level. Clients with better English language ability were more likely to receive food stamps. I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's like, this is kind of a primary source on like, this is a primary source on this being an issue, which is cool. We'll kind of, again, if I can download this, that'd be chill. But I don't know, we'll just kind of keep that in mind, at least, like this paper in mind. But in terms of like what the ideal would look like, I don't know if they, this is too small of a scope, and see that they don't care about that question. Let's see. So our findings. Let's see here. What is unique? Is that homelessness, limited English, also? So, okay. Seems like before this study, they otherwise would have cited that, but that like there wasn't confirmed that English language, like language ability was part of, again, for SNAP. And again, this is a very specific question. for homelessness, lack of food, or lack of permanent address. Undocumented immigrants are ineligible. I mean, that tracks, yeah. I guess, okay, we should also make a note. However, children of undocumented immigrants are eligible. Information on a study can be used to design food stamp outreach efforts to reach. Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, this is just like, hey, this is an issue, which, again, important work being done, right? Again, it's like kind of part of what we're trying to do. But yeah, again, I'll just say this thought, and we'll have to revisit it later, just so we don't get too far off track with what we're trying to work on right now. But it is important that, again, like later on, much later, like a good while later on in this project, we will also have to, when it comes time to like, okay, like the why of any discrepancies we're seeing. Again, I think, we'll have to, it'll be really important, particularly again in the United States for Spanish speakers, to consider, we have to kind of take the bull by the horns and look at, the United States immigration policy, right? And how that's affecting things. And again, that's just, I don't know, I'm just kind of looking down the road of that's like, unfortunately right now, that's like a pretty, I don't know, like, that's like kind of the heart of the issues that we're seeing, right? In terms of, again, I don't want to, like, I anecdotally, I feel like I have experienced and I see, and, we do see, again, evidence in like, multiple evidence on these smaller levels that there are issues being caused by people not being able to have access to the language they need at these government organizations. But unfortunately, like, that again directly interfaces with U.S. immigration policy, which again, like, frankly, the solutions are known to some, that part of the issue, right? Again, like I need to, as we go forward, we'll find primary sources and things, because I just can't, remember cite things on top of my head. I'm just speaking from like a sociology class I took last, less than a year ago, and this past fall. Obviously, very current that like solutions are known, and so for us, we'll kind of encounter a question of like, okay, like, we can definitely throw in this research we're doing into the chorus of voices saying, trying to contribute greater weight to the arguments to change those policies. And again, like, it's better than nothing, right? I don't know, I'm kind of getting a little, again, start existential in kind of a more positive, hopeful way. Maybe, we're ending a little existential in a slightly less hopeful way, but like, I don't know, I'll maybe just take a sec, because it's just, we're here. Just generally with the thought of doing research and of devoting my life to doing research, the kind of how it was phrased that stuck with me is, again, another kind of seemingly random reference, but the video game journalist Tim Rogers in his project Action Button, I think in his Doom review, he started out as just wanting to be just a journalist, a journalist, in kind of the more broader sense and like making a difference in the world. And how he put it though is like, for him, he became very disillusioned. And he's an example like how people were talking about violence in video games, in the context of the video, but that like, who cares? Basically, like, how to paraphrase it, like, who cares about finding the truth if no one's listening? That's like haunted me. That was like multiple years ago that I first watched that video, and that's kind of haunted me since. But again, I genuinely feel, and again, this is just a belief I have, that I will die on this hill, however rational or irrational, but that nihilism is not the answer. Nihilism doesn't get you anywhere. Again, this is just firmly my belief. And, I acknowledge if that's harmful to you or again, counter to what you believe. But for me, just putting out there, like, nothing good has come from people giving up. And everything good has come from people trying and continuing to try, even in the face of despair and overwhelming odds. And so for us, and for me, and the thought of wanting to devote my life, my time to performing research, even in the face of, seems like our current systems don't want to listen to truth as we understand it, I'm choosing to still try. I'm choosing to still contribute my voice, and not blindly. Again, I mean, I'm acknowledging the barriers, and again, not to say, oh, well, you don't have to try to work with and through the barriers. Just like, throw the spaghetti at the wall and it'll stick eventually. Like, that's not. I don't think that's the right approach either. But a balanced approach of continuing to try and to give your every effort to move our understanding, our knowledge forward, and to interface then with how the world is interpreting truth and knowledge right now, and to work with that and not just blindly ignore it. But again, I think I expect, I don't know, maybe a little different as I get into it, but I expect that will be the real challenge and also the real joy of my career as I envision it for myself, is not really even primarily doing the research and finding out these interesting things and these truths, or the intrinsic joy of again using these tools and everything, which are parts of it for me. But I think for me, the primary challenge that I want to set before myself is not finding the truth, but making people care about the truth. And to me, that's a much more difficult task. But to me, especially now, it seems just vital in order to course correct in any direction. Which again, I think partially informs this project, right? And I want the audio quality to be as best as it can. All this stuff is because, and Hank Green, honestly, kind of genuinely like a role model for me, as well as John Green, his brother, and how they approach our age, basically, in terms of truth, in terms of communicating with people, and just in how to show up and make the world a better place. He just barely posted a video that like very directly addresses the heart of these questions. I think he's also been doing some A/B testing, so maybe the title's different, but it's like something just like nihilism's not the answer, or why I'm still trying, that kind of a thing. But just, or I think also like why I have hope, something like that. But just that, like, again, a common idea that he discusses is the how necessary salience is these days. Salience being how easy to pay attention to something is, and that it's not enough. It's genuinely, and I agree that it is genuinely like a failing if you, again, if you are seeking to at the highest levels of society to make it better, right? For an average day-to-day person, like, I don't know, it's a whole other conversation. But like, if you want to have power in the world, essentially, definitely some approaches we're seeing right now is just salience and don't worry about good. I don't know, I'll just say the current administration, I think that I feel in my experience that's their tact for using power is just focus on salience, on how easy to pay attention to something is, and the effect that it's having, be damned, basically. Whereas other parties, again, ones that I'm more familiar with and that, I interface with, that I'm more part of that community, is on the other side of just focus on just trying to do good and, again, trying to get truth and everything, but not really even attempting to make it accessible and salient, right? And appealing. And again, I definitely think that group is doing a lot more good than the other group. But for me, the goal I want to set for myself is both. I want to do the most good I can, recognizing that salience is a vital tool towards actually doing good with our current culture. So I'll also just put out there, I've had this thought, but I would absolutely love to hear any feedback you have. Again, people watching live or these VODs, any feedback you have that would make this more accessible, more engaging, more relevant to you. Because, again, I feel like I have experience and I kind of know the path for finding good truth. But this world of salience is pretty new to me. Like on a public scale, I can tell good stories to friends, and I have fun doing that. But like how to make a public project interesting and meaningful is something that I am learning, and so I'd love to have your feedback on those aspects as well. And so if for example, if having these 10-minute long pauses where I just talk through these thoughts, if that's interesting, and I'll weigh it with my own values. I'll just put that out there too. Like, I won't, just prepare yourself. I won't just, accept every single suggestion, but, I would still love to have that input in that decision-making process. So yeah, anyways, that's another, again, bookending this stream with some existentialism. So again, coming all the way back, again, zooming all the way back in, or slowly zooming back in. Again, for this project, we're going to have to grapple with how we deal with immigration policy, right? And like what we want our approach to be. Because, again, like some good, I believe, is done by just throwing another log on the fire, right, of people pushing to change these policies. But we also kind of need to see, okay, like is just the heat the only option, so to speak, using that analogy, right? Like is like it seems like just making more truth available alone isn't sufficient, hasn't been sufficient, and isn't currently sufficient towards actually making that truth and the good that it would lead to actually manifest in the world. And so we'll have to actually acknowledge that and address that. Which again, I'm not going to have some perfect solution to, but this does come down the road. Okay, yeah. Let's see. So, okay, for us, for this last couple minutes, again, yeah, I think we're just still kind of in the middle of really just kind of figuring out, okay, how can we find, again, this ratio, if that's out there, right? What's known about this ideal ratio between, again, the prevalence of a language among people you're serving versus the people doing the serving, right? The servants. So yeah, we'll have to kind of keep digging through different papers and seeing if we can. Again, I kind of made an analogy in a previous stream, but again, it's kind of a game of Wikipedia. It's a Wikipedia game of like hyperlinks connecting to each other, kind of a thing. Let's see. I thought there was another one that we. Oh no! Yeah. I thought there's another one. Maybe we'll pull that up real fast. Well, let's see. It's like, yeah. This one. Did we end up looking at this paper? Oh, that's a bummer. Let's see if we can just find it by. Because this one seems more recent is why I'm particularly interested. Again, it's like 2023. It's addressing, so, it's addressing again things like COVID-19 and kind of those aftershocks. It's a bummer that doesn't seem to be coming up. Sharing language access for English Limited. Let's see. I mean, this seems like it might be pertinent, so we'll keep that up. Well, never mind. It's not available. I hope this isn't some sort of censoring of these federal agencies doing research previously in like a previous administration. It's like why we can't access these. I don't know. I won't assume that that's the case, but I'll just put it. I don't know. I'm worried that's what's happening, but maybe they just took it down for some other reason. Well, I don't know. That's kind of a bummer note to end on, frankly. Again, we still have options before us for this research. And again, I think we made some good progress with, again, starting to actually finally operationalize some of these things we're talking about, right? Like, again, operationalizing being like stating it in a way where you can actually do math on it and do science on it. And so, I don't know. Again, this is such, if we can get this this number, like we just find the number somewhere, there'll be such a key, a maker, I don't have the word for it, but there'll be such a catalyst for this research that might just commit a full stream or two to just trying to find that, because again, that at that level, to find what the ideal ratio is, like that I feel like would require such a degree of work that it would kind of need to be, again, we would have to kind of pivot our entire research focus to getting that number ourselves. And so again, basically, if we can't find this number, it's a huge problem. But if we can, then we're like, it's kind of smooth sailing for the next little bit. And again, if we can't find it, it's not for sure the end of this project at all. Like we can come up with other ways to approach it, but I'm just saying, yeah, it's valuable enough of a prize that I'll just give you a heads up that we're going to be trying to really work towards finding that, if it's at all available, if it's all already known. So just kind of giving you a heads up. But yeah, I mean, with that, dang, first week down of this project. I'm already having, just kind of take a little extra time, but so I'm already having a ton of fun. This is already providing a lot of value to my life, in terms of what I'm learning, in terms of, again, just genuinely, like, I don't know, it makes me feel good to feel like, again, I'm at least putting this resource out there. Again, gives me some really interesting things to work towards at a lot of different levels. Again, all these very high abstract philosophical concepts I spent the last bit of stream talking about, and the first part of stream talking about. But as well as like how does a compressor work on audio? How can I, making thumbnails for YouTube videos. I don't know, just these skills that are fun and interesting, and again, outside of my normal wheelhouse. So, again, I mentioned this yesterday. I'll put it out there again, though. Going forward, like I want a regular part of this project to be streaming on Saturday as well, because I feel like that will help a lot with accessibility. That, like, people can at least catch. Excuse me. People with normal work schedules. Mine's a little weird because I work like evenings, so that's why I do it in the morning. I do these streams in the morning. But people with more standard 9 to 5 work schedules and can't catch these streams live at the very least, right? And so I think I'd love to make sure I do streams on Saturdays so that those people can at least have some access to this resource. But unfortunately, right after I finish stream today, I'm gonna finish packing my suitcase, and then I'm headed back home to Texas to spend some time with my family there. But and so I won't be streaming tomorrow, and I also won't be streaming on Monday. But again, that's just, I hope, that's an irregularity. Again, I want to be really consistent with streaming again Monday through Friday, 10 to noon. And I think I'm doing a longer stream on Saturday, probably like 10 to 2, all this Mountain Daylight Time. And so thank you so much if you've joined in again live, or again, if you're watching these VODs later, for joining me on the start of this journey. Again, I think I've put it out there in a couple of different places, but also just while I'm kind of doing a summary of this first week, I really want this to be kind of like a multimedia project, all like digital, but I mean, some whatever. But again, I want like a really key part of this to be like posting articles. It's kind of like a middle, so it's kind of the step above this of like refining and kind of, it's like obviously extremely raw. Like you're probably very well familiar with that, if you've made it this far, but so filtering that and processing that somewhat, right, to make it, again, my goal is to have salient truth, right, to make it more accessible, in terms of time, in terms of engagement. And then kind of a step above that is, so again, I want to turn a couple, once I have a good number of streams, and the big thing is like makes progress, a good chunk of progress in this research. Once I have a good chunk of progress in my belt, I want to refine that and compress that into an article. And once I have a good number of articles put out and published, then I want to refine that and turn that into like a video. Again, that's kind of the pipeline I'm envisioning. So those videos will be pretty infrequent, but I want them to be very high quality and very salient, but also containing a high density of like truth and the ideas that we've learned through these streams and this research. So again, just kind of putting out there, that's kind of my blueprint, my roadmap for right now. So again, it'll be maybe a little bit longer, maybe we'll do like one more week before I put together an article. We'll see. I kind of need to figure out exactly what I want that pacing to look like. It'll just be a learning process. So, but just look out for that, and I'll talk more about it when this actually happens. But with that, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I truly hope that this resource is both useful and meaningful to you, as well as interesting. And again, please let me know how I can improve it for you. I'd love to hear your feedback. Again, I'll incorporate that into the decisions I'm making. But with that, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. That'll be the next stream. Tuesday, 10 a.m. to noon Mountain Daylight Time. And you know what? As a treat, as a fun treat, I'm gonna try rating. I'm putting this at the very end so that I can edit it out if needs be. But I'll just try it. Just again, see about what it's like. So I'm just checking my phone. What streams are live that might be a good candidate for us? Well, none of the ones I'm following are live, so maybe we'll do it another time. So I don't waste too much more time. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And have a great weekend. See ya.